Demonic Angel, tonight I'm going to do a very special request from my good friend Black Magick Sorcerer, help on a missing person case, and I'm going to kind of compare notes with Carrie, our mutual friend. And I'm going to link her channel below. She gave her interpretation and opinion, impression with some tarot cards on what she has, thinks has happened. And I'm going to do the same, and so, it'll be something to compare notes. I'll link the missing gentleman, Matthew, his little missing link below. And then I'm just going to kind of go into, some brief, not even exact details, but details on what I've really picked up. And that's how this will work. Really just channeling. So yeah, this is a gentleman who disappeared earlier this year. I think it was in the spring, and so I think it's also in the Midwest, and there's not a lot of details. Like if you look online or do a basic search, there's not a whole lot of info. But yeah, I mean, there's a photo of him, which I have seen, and that's included within the link. And you can just see this one picture of what he looks like, and that's about it. I do like true crime too, so I don't think that he has a Charlie Project page or any web sleuth entries, the really popular kinds of, or even Reddit. So, if anybody out there can get things like that going, or a profile on NamUs, National Missing Person group, that would be excellent. But yeah, there isn't that. So there was very, very little information. So I just kind of focused on maybe what he looked like, let him kind of spend a couple days conveying some messages to me. And so, first I'll kind of describe what I think he was like in life. I think that he was a really unique person within his family dynamic. I think that he was like an uncle to a lot of, family, this really good, solid family. And that was a big joy to him. He did like a lot of junk food, salty junk food, so Planters, peanuts, Cheez-Its. If I'm not even mistaken, I think that it's those little, those white styrofoam cups that he would just, really into the salt, the junk food like that. That was something that that he's very fond of, almost in a joking way, like that he misses already. So I do think that he's deceased, but I also understand that from the way that his energy is, that he had depression for many, many years. I would call it major depression. I think that he would have these periods of time where he would take off from, really being super close with everybody. He never lost contact, but, he would kind of retreat within himself sometimes, be way less expressive, almost like those kinds of things like, when he would do his junk food, sometimes though he wouldn't seem to like eat. He would just be so zoned out. And then, when he would kind of go back to being really normal, very social, very engaged and attached with, the few various jobs I think he did, then it was just like he was such a charismatic person. A lot of energy. And then, that would kind of switch. And so for a lot of years, I do believe this is like something that was like a hereditary deal, and that it very heavily influenced some of these man's like ancestors. So one of the things that I have come to understand, and I do think is at play in this case, is that people with depression, genetic depression, if they never treat it, it does seem to get worse as people age. And one of the things that not treating it does, and the treatments that's a whole nother story. I think the more spiritual options are better. But it affects our memory long term. Like, so when we do get to be middle-aged and older, if there's that genetic depression tendency, it can really affect that long-term memory, short-term memory, way better chances of amnesia. And I just think that that's something that I have seen before in a lot of, deceased people, living people, just through my gnosis of, my curiosity with death. I think that kind of had to do with this, because that was just this real urgency of the depression throughout the life, the retreating, and then kind of coming back, into the spotlight, really. And then I think that what happened recently with this guy in the last 2 to 3 years is that he was, being way more forgetful, aloof. Like, you could speak to him and say, hey, grab some milk at the store, and, he would just not acknowledge, like, you could be frustrated, like you couldn't tell if he was listening. So the being zoned out really intensified for this guy. And I think a lot of other things were going on with him as well. So I think that he was a smoker, a cigarette smoker. I think when he was younger, he drank a lot occasionally, and what that, he kind of kept a taste for hard liquor once in a while. So that, with the smoking and the junk food, it's really, it adds up for all these health issues. So I think that part of the real worsening of the depression, then you've got the slight memory loss going on, and the decline in health. So this was like, he was already not in the best of health. I think some kind of typical health problems for middle age, like high blood pressure. I don't really know about diabetes, but I do the blood pressure, and maybe he had gout, because it's like he walks with a limp, and that was kind of new. And then his back sometimes really hurt, so that kind of got him into drinking and taking pain medication. But I think he had been doing this for something like 10 years. And he kind of could keep it under control a little bit. But, you know how that goes. I think that eventually the need increased, particularly for this pain medication. So he was in severe physical pain. I didn't really understand the cause of the back pain or the limp, because the limp might have been like a gout or an inflammation thing. But I'm not sure how he fucked up his back so bad. So yeah, he had and so all that really just increased, and the pain, and even though he became more withdrawn, he his family, he still kept in touch with them, And I do know that people were very much in his life and concerned about him, and that was definitely my impression, that I do agree with Carrie, that there was a woman that he was very close with. To me, the relationship was not clearly defined, so I think that he could be like a sister or cousin. It could even be his wife, but there's just that distance and connection, mainly having to do with his serious and rapid decline in health. What we were looking at, Carrie was saying, you know, she kept bringing up the Seven of Swords and the Ace of Wands and kind of wanting, you know, what did I think about that? My feeling is that at some point, I think that he was making friends. I mean, he had some weird and shady friends that he didn't bring around his family, which was kind of part of his like depression, and then that would, you know, manifest into the binges. And then when he made friends with some people, they weren't too good, and they did conspire to take some of his pain medication, is what I think it comes down to. Could have been like, but because they're, you know, the Seven of Swords, there's that sneaky element. I think that it was like he was brought in on it, but he, you know, was misled about how things were going to go. Like, it was like, hey, we're going to get way more pills or something. And you know, whatever. It wasn't really a totally clever scheme. And I definitely know that no one meant violence by it, even though this is really, but it is part of this energy that he was betrayed, and you know, in this really sneaky way. And the Ace of Wands, I do think, is just that, all these different ideas, the conspiring. So that's why this is not such a clear-cut thing, you know. Just, I think when others look at it, because there's that kind of alley of thinking of, hey, did somebody do this to him? Did somebody kill him? And I know that there was just drugs, pills involved, but I don't think that ultimately was the way that he died. But I think that it was part of. I think that it was a part of his regular friendships for a long time. Some shady people, but it's not how he died. So then that kind of goes into some objects of his. I was, you know, asked by Jason, Black Magick Sorcerer, what did I think had happened, and I saw a scattered trail of objects, and in this, you know, there was all kinds of different items, but his wallet was recovered burned recently, and I think that has to actually do with, there's some changes to the property. There's a lot of property for this family, and now, you know, I think that their family has actually owned the land for a lot of generations, so there's some pride with that, some strong bonds. But now the property lines are changing, or something is, you know, something has disrupted that, and now things are different. So different rules, all this different laws about, or, you know, trying to get proper people to probably look for him as well. You know, looking on this land, and it's kind of like maybe they're trying to go past the boundaries of their actual property to search for him, which I definitely understand and probably do recommend. But what I think happened, and yeah, I do want to mention how much the woman that he is close with means to him, and that yeah, she is suffering, of course, but I think that the comfort that I can offer is honestly that I really believe that he is home, near the property somewhere, and it's like, you know, to just be in the earth naturally is such a, it's hard to think about, but it's such a blessing. It's like the best gift, you know, we can give to the earth. And he's out in nature and he's close to home. And there's something that I find very beautiful about that. And I know that I do believe he will be found within the coming months to maybe a year, because I don't think that he's very far from the property or the property boundaries. And I think that he, actually, I've got kind of two possibilities to kind of go over. The first one is, I think that I was, you know, typical psychic vision, right? But I was thinking there was water nearby. And maybe there usually wasn't water, so it could have had to do with rain or snow. And he just simply was not paying attention because he was really like in almost like a zombie state. And he, you know, he got wet and he was confused and disoriented from this, you know, memory loss. And I think maybe hypothermia set in. And why I think that is because I saw him leaving a trail of objects. So I saw, you know, the white socks and the sneakers, and there might be like a bright colored sweater or jacket that, I think it might be orange. But he had a few jackets, I think, with him. And, you know, he shed these belongings, and that's why he shed his wallet, because he was just, you know, when people have hypothermia, they start, you know, dropping and their belongings, so they literally don't have to take anything with them. But also because as that damage from hypothermia sets in, you get confused and you think that you're burning. It has to do with the blood vessels bursting and being damaged, and so a person will strip naked, and then that's just kind of how we as mammals react to that. And then a lot of people, reasons why people aren't found in this situation can have a lot to do with terminal burrowing, which is like, okay, hypothermia set in, a person has removed their clothes and they feel like they're burning hot, and that will quickly exhaust them. Because of course the body's temperature is so off, so they climb into a small space, crevice, a cave, just behind a bunch of bushes even, because I mean thick bushes can obscure a lot, and that's why they're not immediately found. It's the body's last defense mechanism to protect itself by triggering you to shelter. So yeah, that's kind of what usually happens. This whole trail of hypothermia and some of the effects. So that is definitely what I think happened. He got so, I guess to summarize, he got so disoriented from, I think, several different factors. The decline in health just had worsened his depression, and he just became really forgetful, and it's almost like suffering a temporary Alzheimer's. And I think that he wandered off. He was so frustrated, and it was like frustration at being confused and not really being in tune with just basic things. And I think that when he was healthier, he did like to roam the land a lot, and so I think that he wandered. I think that he wandered away in that way. You know, the other is just that I think maybe maybe he really does not know who he is, and he you know, he really did wander off. I think if there is a possibility, it's definitely that, you know, to keep searching for him and considering him alive, because if this was this amnesia, I think that he was just really intelligent, and you know, that other layer of that could have helped him survive if he was able to find like shelter and other people, you know. So like wandering into homeless camps and things like that. But, you know, I'm not really sure on that. You know, so either way, and if he didn't get wet and he's not by, you know, this, because I don't think he's exactly by water, like he really wandered away. Then he just really wandered, and he was just shedding his stuff, his keys, wallet, and he needs to take medicine daily. Like there's a medication that he's missing that he didn't take with him, and that's not very good. I mean, you know, once again, I think I keep getting the blood pressure problems, and it's like, it's hard to believe he could have gotten very far with a limp, kind of, but it wasn't very bad, you know. I mean, it wasn't like, I mean, he could still walk pretty good. So yeah, I think that there's that clothing that is about to probably be found, or has been found maybe, jacket, and some other things like that I think are also going to be found are his personal cards, maybe out of the wallet. I think that somebody associated with this case, like in the sense that they were his, you know, drug buddies, I think that they might have tried to destroy evidence that they were involved with what, you know, the way they conned him, thinking that the blame would be placed on them. And of course you know, they're not going to come forward because they don't want to be, you know, thought of as responsible. But I think that is that they were like out there looking for him, and I think that was just something that happened. Like, it's really weird, but I think that they stumbled across his wallet and thought it was the perfect opportunity to remove the responsibility. This stress really did stress him out, and all those contributing factors, it's just like he had a really crazy break. Like the depression was just so intense, he just wasn't aware of his surroundings. I really don't think that he suffered, because I think that he really just wandered until he died. And you know, that's what I think happened. Just big disclaimer, this is just my thoughts on channeling on this specific person. You can check out the link to his missing person flyer below, and a link to Carrie and her YouTube channel, and then I'll even include a link to Magick Sorcerer's channel, so because he asked me to do this channeling for you guys. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.